Hey, what's up guys? My name is Ed Bjerke. Most people call me EG. I'm an Icelandic, Hong Kong based photographer, and I'm going to be talking about 55mm Zeiss and the Sony 50mm GM. So 55mm Zeiss is one of the oldest lenses in the system. I think when I got the A7R originally back in 2013 or 2014, I got the 55mm Zeiss. I remember very clearly I was coming from a Nikon D810 and I had a Sigma 50mm art, and I remember the 55mm was like razor sharp. I mean, it was absolutely beautifully sharp compared to even the much bigger 50mm art. With that being said, a few years have passed, 8 to be exact or something like that, and Sony has now made like relatively small for a 50mm 1.2 lens, exceptionally good lens optically. So if you look at both of these lenses new, it's twice the price. I mean, the 55mm goes for roughly 1,000 US and the Sony 50mm GM goes for around 2,000 US, but it's also double the light difference. F1.2 versus F1.8, that's double the amount of light. But you can pick up good copies of the 55 used, and you can get a pretty good deal on them. So I think when you compare these lenses top down to around 2.8 or even f4, they're virtually identical. You can't really see much difference between the two of them. In terms of chromatic aberration, this is maybe an area where you would see the biggest difference. So the 55mm does have a little bit of a chromatic aberration, especially wide open, but it goes way around f2.8. But I mean, when do you really see that difference? I think when you have like very harsh lighting conditions, or when you have like branches or some very sharp dark object against the sky, then you're definitely going to see it. There are a few cases where you can see it a little bit also on the 55mm. For instance, if you have like a snowbank or something bright in the background, you can see a little bit of that CA pop up in the background blur. But I mean, is it that distracting? Did it ruin the image? In my opinion, no. Where the difference is the most, for instance, if you have some jewelry in the shot, if you're filming or if you're taking pictures in a wedding situation where you have like a jewelry or some shiny objects, that's where you can have like the chromatic aberration being a distraction. But other than that, really, I think the value is definitely at the 55mm. The 55mm provides a lot of value, and it's still today, even all those years, like almost 9 years after the system has been launched, it's still a relevant good lens today. And I decided to keep mine. I mean, for instance, if you have a long day and you're running on a gimbal, I mean, to have a 55mm on the gimbal compared to the 50mm, that's a huge difference. Huge difference. But with that being said, if I'm not operating on a gimbal, of course I'm going to be picking the 50 because I have it. I have a hard time recommending the 50mm over the 55mm just from a sheer value proposition. I think the 55mm really packs a punch in terms of value. I mean, if you're doing landscape or if you're doing street photography, if you're doing any kind of just normal photography, I think the 55mm is not going to hold you back at all. If anything, it's going to be a huge advantage to have like a smaller lens that's going to be easier to carry around, because the 50mm is a little bit heavy. It is on the heavier side. So in terms of value, I mean, I think the 55 is winning all day. But if you're using these in a professional capacity, if you need to be uncompromising in terms of client work, I think the 50mm GM is justifiable. Alright, I think that's going to be it for now. Thanks a lot for stopping by, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to comment below if you think anything I said was complete bullshit. And don't forget to leave a like if you like this. Alright, take care, guys. Bye.